For anyone who grew up in the 80s and 90s, Lion-O is unforgettable. But what if the Lion-O you grew up watching was never supposed to exist the way you remember him? And what if the show's very first episode hid something in plain sight that millions of people watched for 40 years without ever stopping to ask the real question? And strangely enough, the answer may have been hiding inside a document written before ThunderCats even existed. Lion-O's capsule fails during the journey from Thundera to Third Earth. Not completely. He doesn't die. But the mechanism designed to halt his aging stops working somewhere in the cold of deep space. And while Tigra, Panthro, Chitara, and the twins sleep perfectly preserved, Lion-O grows alone, sealed inside a pod, his body aging for years in the dark, while the people around him remain frozen at the exact age they were when the capsule's sealed. He experiences none of it consciously. There is no memory of growing, no moment of realization, just the pod, the darkness, and time passing without permission. He arrives at Third Earth in the body of a full-grown warrior. He has the mind of a young boy, and that detail matters in a way the show never fully admitted. Because before the fleet ever left Thundera, Lion-O's father, Claudus, the Lord of the ThunderCats, had already placed the full weight of a civilization's future on his son's shoulders. The Sword of Omens, the title, the survival of everything and everyone that made it off Thundera before the end. A father's expectations sealed into a weapon and handed to a child, transmitting themselves across years of empty space without his knowledge or consent, arriving in full force the moment Lion-O opened his eyes, the very moment he was least prepared to carry any of it. He wakes up having missed every year that was supposed to build him into the person his father imagined. No training, no gradual growth, no hard lessons learned at the right pace, just the body, the sword, and a dead world behind him. Everything Claudus believed his son would one day be ready for, delivered all at once, with no preparation, to someone who had been sleeping through the years that preparation was supposed to occupy. Viewed through that lens, many of Lion-O's mistakes suddenly make a lot more sense. He isn't reckless. He is a child in the body of a warrior, surrounded by adults who see what they need to see. Every time he charges in without thinking, every time he acts before Panthro or Tigra could have advised him, every moment where the Lord of the ThunderCats looks like anything but a lord, the capsule is the answer. The boy never finished growing. The years that should have shaped him into the leader everyone expected were stolen without his knowledge, and no one around him ever stopped to reckon with that. They saw a lord. The body gave them a lord. The mind inside was still trying to figure out what a lord was supposed to be. But there was one person on that ship who understood the weight of what was being asked of Lion-O. One person who paid a completely different price. Jaga stayed behind at the controls while everyone else slept. He piloted the fleet alone across years of empty space. He aged in that cockpit in the dark, without ceremony, without witness, without anyone to share the silence with. He never made it to Third Earth. The show gives him a quiet exit, a fade to nothing. A man who gave everything he had left, slowly and completely, to deliver a boy in a man's body to a world that had no idea what was coming. He did not die in battle. He did not fall to Mumm-Ra's power. He sat in a cockpit alone for years, getting older until there was nothing left to give. And then he gave that too. Two people aging alone on the same ship. One in a capsule, one in a cockpit. Neither of them able to tell the other what was happening. Both arriving at Third Earth as something irrevocably different from what they had been when they left Thundera. But this is not where the story ends. Because what the capsule failure hid about Lion-O is only half of what Exodus was concealing. And this is where that document comes in. In 1984, a writer named Leonard Starr sat down and wrote the original pitch for ThunderCats, and what he described looks nothing like the show you remember. Not Third Earth, not a distant alien world with alien ruins and alien sorcerers. According to the original 1984 pitch, the ThunderCats ship crashes in an African jungle. Planet Earth, our Earth. Mumm-Ra is not a sorcerer sealed inside an alien pyramid. He is an ancient mummified priest who transforms. And the figures he transforms into are not invented. They are historical. Genghis Khan, Medusa, Circe. The most destructive names in the record of human civilization. worn as living masks by a villain who has outlasted all of them. The weapon Lion-O carries is called the Eye of Xanth, and it transforms into the Sword of Omens. The stakes are not fictional. The world being fought over is the same one the audience lives in. At some point during development, the real-world setting disappeared. Third Earth replaced Africa. A fictional alien history replaced Genghis Khan. The Eye of Xanth became simply the Sword of Omens, with no trace of the name it had carried before. What survived the transformation was the capsule. What survived was the boy. What survived was Jaga dying alone in a cockpit so that a child in an adult's body could inherit a sword and a civilization's worth of expectations he was never prepared to carry. Rankin reshaped it beyond recognition, but they could not erase what the story was actually about. Because the Africa version and the Third Earth version are telling the same story underneath. A young lord who was not ready. A father's weight transmitted across an impossible distance. A world that needed a king and got a boy instead. Whether Mumm-Ra wears the face of Genghis Khan or emerges from a stone pyramid on an alien world, the figure standing against him is the same. The weapon has the same function, and the capsule still fails. The animated series told us the basics. Exodus was about an escape. A fleet of ships fleeing a dying world toward an unknown future. A boy who never got to grow up. A mentor who gave his life to deliver that boy to a world he would spend 4 seasons struggling to be worthy of. And behind all of it, a version of this story set in our world, with our history, with real names attached to real darkness. A version that was reshaped before it ever reached your screen. On the surface, a hero being born. On the inside, a child being asked to carry everything his father left behind, in a body that aged without him, toward a world that had no idea what it was receiving. The secret wasn't hidden in Mumm-Ra. It wasn't hidden in Third Earth. It was hidden in Lion-O himself, a child who crossed the universe and arrived looking like a king before he ever had the chance to become one. If this video made you see a character you thought you already knew in a whole new light, share it with someone who grew up watching ThunderCats. And if you want to know the dark origin of another classic character that TV kept hidden from you, subscribe to the channel, because the next video is about a character who seemed noble but had a past far more complicated than the cartoon ever admitted. See you then.